Saturday, beautiful people. It's me, Elle Montague, streaming live, Intellectual Radio's Platinum Convos. I can't even say the name of my own show. Platinum Convos. Hello, hello, hello. How are you, everyone? Today in the studio, I have a wonderful, wonderful guest with us who's going to share a story. As you all know, if you listen to the show, this is a show about ordinary people doing extraordinary things with their passions, with their health, and their lives to the fullest, vibrating higher and higher and higher. And today in the studio, I'm so happy to present to you. I don't know if I'm presenting because she's been in lots of other forums before in which she's in radio. Let her introduce herself before I mess it up. Rasha, please give us like a rundown on who you are, what you do. What's your story?
Okay. Well, I want to first say thank you, Elle, for inviting me to your show. So I appreciate being here. Oh, so what is my story? I love that question. I love that question because my business was birthed from my story.
Oh.
So my name is Rasha Auset. My background, I am a registered nurse, board certified in holistic health. I'm also a registered yoga instructor and a practitioner of energy medicine. For those that are not familiar with energy medicine, sometimes you hear Reiki used, so it'll follow in those lines, along those lines. Also, let's see. So I started off going to school in nursing because I started off being a CNA, a nursing assistant, and I was like, oh, I want to do more. I don't feel like I feel limited in this role. So I went to school, I became a nurse. As I was going through nursing school, I learned that the path of Western medicine wasn't really in alignment with who I was, but I'm like, I'm already in, I'm all in, I'm going to go and I'm going to complete this because I feel like there's something stirring in me and this is way bigger than who I am.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So even though, and I'll tell you what I didn't agree with. So I remember reading some of my textbooks and we were in med surge. And it would always say, this disease doesn't have an origin. I'm like, what? It'd be like this disease doesn't have an origin. And this disease doesn't have an origin. I'm like, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's got to come from somewhere.
It comes from somewhere. And then while I was in nursing school, I started to take these online classes, nutrition classes from Stanford University online.
So did you just choose to do that or was that part of your curriculum?
No. Usually that's a great question because usually nurses and doctors do not learn nutrition.
I heard that.
So that's a good question. Yeah, a doctor might take maybe a week of nutrition courses. We took no nutrition courses. They just gave us a book.
Oh, wow. So you opted like, okay, I want to take some nutrition courses on my own, do your thing. And what happened with that? What did you discover?
So I discovered that they were teaching them a lot of things that they weren't teaching us. So I learned that I think at the time, so this was 10 years ago. So at the time, the mortality rate of cardiovascular diseases were about 500,000 people died every year from heart failure and other cardiac related diseases.
And it's still number one killer in the United States.
Yeah, and they found out that the CDC said 8 out of 10 of those people, they were caused by nutrition. So if it's caused by nutrition, that means, of course, we can, 1, prevent it, 2, we can resolve those issues. So it's not always that we have to take a pill. We can take away from our diet what's causing the disease, like our fried foods or our foods with chemicals in it that's causing our body to slowly start to shut down, as I put it. And we remove that from our diet, we're able to bring our body back into homeostasis. So, we're being taught these things. It was interesting in that course. They said, majority of people in the United States die from nutritional diseases, but majority of people in third world countries die from infectious diseases. They don't have the diseases that we have.
Absolutely.
And that was like light bulb. But I'm sitting in nursing school being told that these same diseases have no origin.
Absolutely. And so
So
how did this so when you got this information, how did this like transform your thinking and your path and what you were going to do? I'm hearing that it pivoted you
mhm,
from one direction to another when you
yes.
added this in.
Yeah, because I initially went into nursing school wanting to help. I'm a healer. I want to help. I want to serve, help people with their illness. And then so when I got this information, I'm like, okay, now I can do more than what we're being taught. I can do the
Absolutely.
holistic side of nursing because as a nurse, originally you were holistic. The doctor was the one passing the medicine, making the decisions. But as time evolved, the nurse got more independent and is their own independent discipline where we're making all these decisions and passing the orders off to the doctor and they're approving them.
Right.
That was not our role. Our role was to treat the patient holistically through nutrition, through bed rest, through turning them, through bathing them, through massage, through energetic touch. That was the original purpose of a nurse. So somehow during time, in this country and
With
other factors with
politics,
politics and money involved that
money.
that changed. So I was super excited about learning this information. So I was actually living in Florida at the time.
Okay.
And so I was working at a hospital and I also started to do consultations on the side. So I birthed my business called Holistic Healthcare Group and it was just
I
me.
love that you keep saying birth in your business.
Oh yes.
I love that.
Yes,
You
yes,
birth your
yes.
business of creation. You are the goddess of your creation, which is your business. I love that. I'm sorry to interject,
No,
but
it's okay.
I love that. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Let me hear more. Let me hear more.
So I birthed my business, holistic healthcare group, and I focused on clients because I would have patients that wanted more. They knew
Mm-hmm.
there was something more than what the doctor was just sharing with them. So we would talk more about nutrition and how disease is related to nutrition. So I tend to censor myself during this talk, but I'm not going to.
Please don't.
No, I'm not, because I know you're open to hear it and your wonderful listeners want to hear this information. I was able to work with clients to teach them and give them the tools so they could slowly transition off of their pharmaceutical
Absolutely.
medicine. Yeah,
Absolutely.
with nutrition
Absolutely.
alone. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that because if you don't take ownership as the patient, as the person who has to live your lifestyle and own your own health, no one else is going to do it. So I love this point that you're making about nutrition because diabetes, type 2 diabetes is something that's also growing in our country. Now
Hmm.
we have more children with type 2 diabetes than ever. And type 2 diabetes is the diabetes that you are not born with. This has
Yeah.
nothing to do with insulin. This is totally based on lifestyle and food choices.
Yep.
So they are expecting double the amount in drug sales
Hmm.
for diabetes medications over the next 3 to 5 years. And the solution for that, guess what? Is lifestyle change and changing your diet.
Hmm.
But if you look at the projections of the market in terms of pharmaceuticals, most doctors, not all doctors, because they have limited education in nutrition, like what you said before,
Hmm.
will wait until you have the diabetes and then you have a prescription for the medication instead of going to the root cause of the illness, which is poor nutrition.
Yeah.
So I actually love that you are bringing this up in with your
Mm.
business and then also pushing it back to the patient. The patient needs to own their own
Hmm.
health and understand it enough because with the way that the system is set up now and doctors have to go so fast, doctors have to get people in and out because of insurance requirements,
Yep.
or hospital requirements and mandates. There isn't a lot of time for someone else to take responsibility for your health before disease. And the only
Hmm.
person who can do that is you as the patient.
Yes.
You as the patient.
Yes.
So how do you even how do you even get this conversation started with some of your patients and how is it like is it well received or is it just more of a burden to some people to have to know so much about their
Mm.
health? I mean, how do you feel about how your patients are receiving that information?
That's interesting because even though we're taught in Western medicine to provide patient-centered care, meaning that I create a care plan for my patient as a nurse, and then the doctor, other disciplines, and the patient and family have to agree to this and have to be fully present in it. Like that's how we operate. But what happens, and it's an interesting concept because our intention is one thing, but what happens is the patient just, not all patients, but most, they just rely on us to give them the answers, to tell them what to do that's best. And if it's out of alignment with what they're taught, meaning these drug commercials that are constantly on the screen or in magazines or in the newspaper or what the pharmaceutical companies are pushing, they're typically kind of resistant to that and they're doing a lot of pushback. So when I started doing my consultations and the work that I do with women now, I always want us to get into, you being the one that's empowered, you being the one that's in the driver's seat. And I'm just here to help guide you through it. Yes, but you have to, like you said, own it. You have to own it. You have to stand for yourself. Because it's so much that I could do. So I give you the tools, you do it. And then you help yourself, and then you help your sister, and then you help your mom, and then you help your aunt, and then you help this person.
Yes, let
That's
it
how
spread
it goes.
like wildfire.
Yes.
So I love this because I've been in pharmaceuticals development chemistry for 22 years.
You know then. Okay.
Yeah, and this is still my job. Although I am in a doctorate program for Eastern medicine. So my whole thing is, and the reason why I'm doing my research is to transition people from pharmaceuticals to herbs and natural products and through diet. That's what I'm in school getting my doctorate for now. So I think it's very interesting because the way that our country is set up is that pharmaceutical companies, of course, are private businesses. Of course, the mission of the company and the whole aim of the product that's being produced is to benefit the patient. However, at the end of the day, it is a private company that needs to make money, and also a private company that needs to recoup the costs of all of the other failed pharmaceuticals that happened before the one that is actually launched. Most pharmaceutical companies have an attrition rate, a failure rate of 95 to 98%. So the drug research is very, very expensive. It's almost like $1.4 billion for the cost to get one product to launch. One product to market. So of course, those companies have to recoup their money. And the cost goes on to who? The payer. So I understand the business of it, but I think also not just relying on that source, and to also think a step ahead in terms of preventive. So I know pharmaceuticals can offer something. I know that natural remedies and diet and lifestyle changes can offer something, but I also want to offer something to myself prior to that dis-ease, that imbalance that comes into the body. And I'm bringing this up because, and I find it very interesting because one of the conversations that we had so long ago, actually on Facebook, was more so about energetics and sharing in the female body. And I find that like that is not a discussion that most people have in terms of understanding the energetics in their body and how that keeps you healthy and balanced, and how that keeps you harmonized so that you don't get to the point that you actually have disease and have to rely on pharmaceuticals or drugs that actually give you so many side effects. So talk to us a little bit about what that is, and maybe I'll just give you something. The womb. I love the womb energy stuff. So for females, and describe to us like what is. Well, just go all the way back. What is the womb? Why is the energy important, and what is it, and how do we maintain it, or why do we care about it?
That's a loaded question.
Why do we care about the womb?
Well, let me ask you this. Can I go back to finishing my story? Because
Oh
I want to
yeah.
say, because it's going
Oh,
to
okay.
get
I'm
to
so
that.
sorry. I
Yeah,
interjected your story.
it's
Okay.
okay
Okay.
because
Let's
you
tell your
made a
story. Let's hear your
wonderful
story.
point that I was not aware of. So thank you for sharing that with me,
Okay. Go
or
back to
with
your story.
us. So in the process, and this is going to answer this question. So
Okay.
in the process of me helping, it was men, women, children, with nutritional therapies at the time, I discovered that most of my clients were women.
Ah.
And
Ah.
their diseases were deeper than nutrition. So that's where we started to get to the energetic aspects. So that actually helped me when I realized this. So anytime I realize something, anytime that light bulb goes on or I have this shift, I'm like, I need to go deeper and not in. I need to go deeper into my own healing because we're always going to be on our
Right.
healing journey. I don't care if you're 90 years old, you're a teacher, be on a healing journey. But I go deeper so I can learn more. So I went deeper into my healing. So I started doing womb work. So I went through Queen of Fu. I don't know if you're familiar with Queen of
I
Fu,
have Sacred
Sacred
Woman. So she's like
Woman. Yeah,
The Brooklyn
yeah,
woman,
yeah.
right?
Rites of Passage. Yes,
Okay.
yes. I
It's a
went.
purple book. I have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of
Yes.
thick. I don't think I finished reading it because it has so many pages.
Yeah, read it. It's wonderful. And then after you read it, I want people to come to my program, but I always, I want people to come to my program. I always recommend them to hers. It's strange. And then I'm like, Rasha, why are you doing that? And it's whatever. I mean, because she's phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
And that's the rites of passage I went through.
Okay.
So I love it. And a lot of what I teach, that's a foundation is within that as well. That's my background as a nurse, but then also the foundation that I went through, the rites of passage, and then my travels that I've done around the world. So going to Peru, I take some of that from shamans that I learned in Peru, in the jungles or in the terrain of Peru, and then also Thailand. One of my teachers are Mantak Chia, so we talk about more of the cultivating sexual energy.
I'm all on those books, the Mantak Chia books.
Yeah.
If you are interested in sexual energies, I'm all on it. I'm all on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had to do my own healing. So when I was doing more of my own healing, so my healing went from transitioning off of my own blood pressure medicine to no longer taking blood pressure medicine to dealing with trauma that I was holding in my womb.
So let's kind of like even talk about this. What are we talking about when we talk about womb?
Yeah. So when we're talking about a womb, we're talking about the uterus. We're talking about the uterus, the fallopian tubes, and the ovaries, because women carry so much energy. It's about 2/3 of a woman's chi or life force energy is within her ovaries. So one of the things that I do with my clients, I teach them certain meditations to cultivate that energy and really build it up and then move it throughout their body so they can start healing these blockages.
Do you use chakra-based movement meditations from the second chakra? Well, the first, the root, the second, or are you using something else?
It depends on what class I teach. So I teach womb yoga. So I combine womb yoga with more of a Hindu and then also a Kemetic yoga background where we focus on the different chakra systems. So we will focus on the root chakra, the sex chakra, and also the navel and the solar plexus.
Oh, the solar plexus right here. Orange.
Yeah. And then we also get into the organs. So I've learned when we're doing energetic work, it's more effective to go deeper into the organs. So we'll deal with the heart. We'll go into so let's say heart. We'll go into heart for love, joy, and happiness. We'll go into the ovaries and meditate in them for, again, love, joy, and happiness. We'll go into the liver and we'll go and meditate to release control or release what we can't let go of, release resentment. A lot of women carry around anger inside of their liver. We might meditate into the spleen. The spleen is where we hold worry.
Okay.
We're not open. We don't surrender. And a lot of what femininity is about is being open and surrendering and going with the flow of things. Kidneys, we'll even go into the kidneys. That's where we hold a lot of our fear and our anxiety is within our kidneys. So I do a combination of both because I realize on my path and just learning, it's so much all these different systems have to offer.
And
Yeah.
they're interconnected.
Yes, they're all
So
connected.
I'm kind of a little bit shocked because I wasn't expecting you to talk about when I don't know, I envisioned in my mind when I asked you the question about the womb that you're going to say something biological, like the phases of your uterus, your hormones associated with your uterus, infections, I don't know, something. I thought you were going to say something more biological, but to hear you talk about from the emotional aspect and actually harboring emotion and trauma in your womb, that's like, I mean, that's really opening my mind because but in the respect that I know that our emotions impact your body, mind body connection, right? And spirit. But to think about your womb as a specific like vessel that harbors and holds trauma and emotions, that's a little. So how would that manifest itself if I had some negative emotion in my in my wound here? Well, I mean, how would that come out, or how would that appear like in my body?
Oh yeah. So I do talk about the biological part as well. So I do. So the way I advertise this beautiful creation, I just call it a creation, is business and passion. Is I say market towards women that are suffering with fibroids and endometriosis and cysts, painful cycles, any womb ailments or issues with the womb, yeast infections, chronic bacterial vaginosis that aren't relieved by typical antibiotics or antifungals. And I get women to connect the energetic aspects of that. So let's say a woman is carrying around anger for her father or an ex-lover, that can show up with her having hip problems, cysts in her ovaries.
Endometriosis.
Yeah, endometriosis.
Because anger is more like blockage, right? Anger is a blockage. It's like not, well, all emotions can block, but it's like a really, really strong blockage that's creating, and blockage creates pain. Correct? Is that how it goes there, or is it?
It creates disharmony, yeah, and that can show up in many ways. Anger is like a protection almost. It's interesting. I was meditating on this last night. I was like, ooh, I once was moving through life angry at men because of my background, because I was a victim of domestic violence and rape. So I was angry at men. I was using that to protect me. So anything that they would do, even if it was little, I would push them away, because it's easy to push somebody away when you're angry at them, because in the back of your mind, you're playing this record that says, men are going to hurt you anyway.
Right.
So I'm going to use that anger to protect me. And that came to me last night, and I was like, wow, that's interesting.
I feel that's very interesting, but I totally understand it.
Yeah.
I totally understand it. And it's very, I love that you actually put it into those terms as a protection. But at the same time, as you're protecting outward, right, you're doing something to yourself inward, because you're not allowing the flow. You're not allowing the connection from the crown all the way down. So you're basically, you're protecting overusing something that creates, I guess, a deficit inside of you in your body. Yeah. That needs to be released. It needs to be released for harmony and health.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. I want to go deeper with that. I'm going to go back to the biological part. So, when we're dealing with the liver or the anger, we're dealing with the liver. Most of these diseases that we start talking about, the fibroids, endometriosis, cysts, are caused by an imbalance in our hormones. So, 95% of women have higher estrogen levels when they have these diseases. And estrogen is metabolized in the liver.
Right.
So, it's all connected. We can't talk about one without talking about the other. So a lot of the conversations that I have with my clients is, these physical manifestations of the diseases were once energetic.
I get it.
Yes.
I get it. And it's also important when you bring it up this way. What is it? It's the hormonal feedback loop too. So with
Mm.
estrogen, it also has to go up
Mm-hmm.
to your brain to trigger that the estrogen is on to turn it off.
Yeah.
Right. And then, then it's in the liver. It's coming out the ovaries and it goes up and it's a lot of signaling that happens that also
Yeah.
impacts your brain and your mood.
Yep.
Your mood gets in there. And this is the biological way to look at it. Your
Yeah.
mood is getting in there. But if you think about it from the energetic perspective, it is the spirit
Mm-hmm.
that is impacted, right?
Yep.
That is so
Yeah.
interesting
The
how
energy
it
body.
right. So they're just like over this situation of having anger in your womb is like overlaid. You have the spiritual energetic side of it as well as the biological piece of it that ends up either in pain, disease, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as well as mood altering emotions that trigger it to continue to go.
Yeah.
Wow. Am
Yeah,
I
it's a
am I getting
cycle.
this? Am I getting this right?
Oh yeah. I hope they're getting it. Yeah. I was like, we're going into deep conversation. I wasn't ready or I'm ready, but didn't think this was gonna go there. But yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool though. So so if I were to come into your office and I was presenting, let's just say, with painful painful periods
Hmm.
and I disclose to you that I've had a traumatic background that I have not yet processed my emotions
Hmm.
related to that, how would you go about treating me or counseling me in
Hmm.
terms of how to deal with that?
So I always start with everything is energy. Everything is energy. So I always do an energetic assessment before I do a physical assessment. So each client I will treat differently because I could have two clients that have the same symptoms, but I would not treat them the same or I wouldn't approach them in the same way. So I would assess the energy through my background in energy medicine, and then I would recommend from there. Usually, clients, like I recently had a client that came to me with questions about her fibroids, and I could feel that a lot of that stemmed from her rejection of femininity and her, I don't want to say war. I guess I could say war with the masculine
Mm-hmm.
and denying who she was. And she started opening up. And I'm not going to say what she said, but she started opening up and telling me some things that she totally understood what I said. Totally understood what I said. Some women will say they don't, they wish they weren't a woman.
Really?
Yeah, some women will say that they wish they weren't a woman. I've had women say there's nothing good about being a woman. Being a woman is painful. We have painful cycles. We carry children for 9 months. We go through labor pain. We're left with the children. These results from this trauma or,
Right, right.
and there's nothing good about being a woman. A lot of women carry a lot of pain walking around with them as it relates to femininity and connecting with what being a woman is. So,
Yeah, that's very interesting because I'm glad you brought up the complexity of it because each individual, women and men, have both feminine and
mhm,
masculine energy, right? And it's important as a woman to embrace your feminine side as well as your masculine side. And
yeah,
that's how we actually connect with men by
yeah,
that counterbalance of both,
mhm,
the yin and yang is the counterbalance of both within each
Mhm.
individual. So when you shut out one because of past experience
Mhm.
or deny an energy because of past experience, it
Yeah.
doesn't allow you to be empowered and realize your true potential and your true height, which
Yeah.
also impact health. So
Oh, yes.
I think that's totally interesting that so what I'm hearing you say is because everyone is different, they
Mhm.
may present with one thing,
Yeah.
but the inside is what matters. The root cause of why they're
Yeah.
presenting is what you go after to treat.
Yeah.
So if someone says, I'm unhappy with
Mhm.
my feminine side, is really more so like an emotional, you have to deal with the trauma. So
Yeah.
I would expect then maybe you would do an energy healing to
Yeah.
move the trauma.
I'm sorry, I didn't go into details.
Okay. No,
Sorry.
I'm just working
So,
through it in my mind.
yeah, let
Are
me
you
go into details. I'm sorry, because sometimes I go over here, then you got to bring me back.
I'm all over the place too.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So yeah, so let's say, okay, let's take a case study. So say we had a woman that came in, and let's say she was molested, because 80% of Black women were molested before
80%.
18.
Oh,
So say,
18.
yeah, before they were
Okay. I
18.
was
So let's,
80%
yep.
before 18?
So let's say she came in, she was molested, she's never dealt with that. She has a manifestation of fibroids, painful cycles, and she comes to me. So let's say, yes, I would do energy work on her, and I'd also teach her how to do energy work on herself. I would teach her how to do meditations that will start to release some of those blockages in her womb. When she's ready, I would then go into teaching her how to cultivate sexual energy, because there's stages to that. I would never just go and teach someone how to cultivate sexual energy, because then that'll lead into Kundalini syndrome.
Right.
And
But
so
it's
if you ever
actually
hear somebody
nice.
say, "Oh, I feel like I went crazy after meditation," you're really not going crazy. You're just releasing a lot of dormant emotions that you haven't dealt with, and they just need to be released.
I've
Um,
experienced it.
Oh yeah, I have to. So we might go into that. I also recommend steaming, so vaginal steaming for women, whether they do it at home or in person with a practitioner. Also, yoni detox pearls. I call them herbal detox tampons, because they're vaginal inserts, and they're made with traditional Chinese medicine that women can actually insert into their vaginal canal. And a lot of my clients, it helps them release the yeast infections, the BVs that they just
Right.
can't get rid of. Also, it helps with outbreaks. So, a lot of women have herpes outbreaks, so it decreases the number of outbreaks they get per year. It helps them speed the outbreaks up, the healing time of the outbreaks. Also, it helps with fibroids as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love these natural remedy
Yeah.
inserts in douches because
Oh,
we
yeah.
do we're not, and I'm not promoting using the over the counter douches that you can get from CVS and Walgreens. So you can make a dish for yourself
Hmm.
using water, lemon juice, water, vinegar with the really
Hmm.
light vinegar. As well, if you wanted to do infections, you can actually use a garlic peel,
Yeah.
and insert a garlic peel because garlic has anti-infective properties. So that has been done traditionally over
Hmm.
thousands of years. So I think that's very a good tip of how to treat people. But I also want to get to the whole point of when you're talking about dealing with someone's trauma,
Okay.
because people may listen to this and say, okay, this is kind of this spiritual, hippie,
Hmm.
healer, African, pseudo
Hmm.
traditional, indigenous stuff
Hmm.
that doesn't make any difference. But I wanted to add to that is that there's a book, if anyone's interested in reading, it's called The Body Keeps the Score.
Mm.
And I think the 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 author is Culkin. I can't remember the author's name. The Body Keeps the Score. It's got a little person that's dancing on the cover. I haven't read in a while. The Coke. or something like that. But look it up. It's actually the guy is a psychiatrist.
Okay.
He's an MD. He's a psychiatrist trained in Western medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and he actually does a lot of studies in terms of the mind body connection and
Mm-hmm.
autoimmune diseases. And he
Yeah.
does all these studies with women who
Mm-hmm.
have been traumatized by incest,
Yep.
right? They have been molested or raped by their fathers
Mm-hmm.
in their households and weren't able to process
Yep.
the emotional trauma. And a lot of it resulted in an autoimmune
Yep.
disease. Like one woman actually had macular
Yep.
degeneration, in which her eyesight,
Mm-hmm.
she lost her eyesight, beginning going blind
Yep.
because she was unable to process her trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And because she never had that treated, she had to deal with that. But once she started processing her trauma, her eyesight actually came back.
Yeah.
These are real stories. It's
Yeah.
not just spiritual mumbo jumbo
Mm-hmm.
that you need to address more than just the physical vaginal insert issue when
Mm-hmm.
you have these traumatic events.
Oh yeah.
So that's very interesting. So in terms of like if someone wanted to just like maintain, I'm not sick right now, and I have trauma, because all of us have trauma, some type of trauma. We just don't know what it is until it presents itself, or we're triggered for it to present itself. I'm just wanting to maintain my energetic health with my
Mm-hmm.
body. So, what would be like some suggestions you would make for me if I'm wanting, I guess, to maintain my womb? Is that what I
Okay.
want to do?
Yeah.
Maintain my womb, or do I want to maintain my vagina? What is it I'm trying to do?
So I would say that you want to connect with your womb.
Connect with
Cause
my womb.
or maintain that heart womb connection, because a lot of women are disconnected to their womb. We think about it when we're on our cycles and we're in
We try
pain.
to ignore it when we're on our cycles.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Get
we're
away
like,
from it.
ow, we're bringing our hands down there in pain, bending over. That's like when we touch our womb. And then when we're pregnant, when we have a baby inside of us. Other than that, no, we're trying to forget about it, because a lot of us think, again, that women have all these pains. It sucks to be a woman. These are just the conversations I'm having with
Right.
clients. So, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. Come back.
Maintaining the womb. You're going to
Yeah.
connecting to the womb.
Oh, connecting to the womb.
Heart
So
womb connection.
thank you.
I was listening.
So one of the ways that we do that is through yoga. So that's why I teach my
Yoga.
clients womb yoga. So meditation, yoni breathing or womb breathing, and then also yoga exercises that can bring circulation and move chi through the pelvis, through the fallopian tube, through the ovaries. And this is something that you can do at home.
So just to move energy and chi through the so that would make me think too, from Eastern medicine, warming herbs to help the movement. Maybe like I'm thinking cinnamon or cinnamon drink
Mm-hmm.
that's moving.
Oh yeah,
A
cinnamon
ginger
is great. I was
drink.
gonna say ginger.
A
Yep.
ginger drink
Mm-hmm.
moving.
Yep.
So do you think it's helpful to use specific types of tea if you're not necessarily in the yoga mind frame of moving your body? Or
Oh yeah. Like you mentioned, the so ginger, and then you mentioned cinnamon, rose, dates. Excuse me. They all help with the liver.
oh,
The liver chi. So a lot of the things I do with my clients, we focus on that liver chi, just because of that estrogen, those hormones, and balancing the estrogen levels.
okay.
So yeah, definitely teas. Mother's wort, mugwort is really good. Yarrow is excellent. There's so many herbs.
There's so many
There's so
herbs.
many herbs
But
that help
just
with the womb.
or what is it? I think red raspberry too.
Red raspberry is excellent as well.
So just to keep it moving. I
Mhm.
know also like for ginger, if you have terrible periods,
Oh yeah.
it will like reduce your period time if you have ginger tea,
Oh
or put
yeah.
ginger in your smoothie.
Mm-hmm.
That would help you out with that.
Maca.
Yeah, maca.
Maca is excellent.
Maca though is like very sexual.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you're going to feel sensual and sexual, which is good because
Yes.
we're taught that that's shameful and feeling guilty about that, and that manifests into physical ailments as well.
Okay, so then let's
Yeah.
think about that in terms of your energy, because you know, as a woman, you do have to have the energetic flow, that
Mm-hmm.
sensual energetic flow
Okay.
during intimacy. And
Yeah.
that I would also think that intimacy is a component that impacts how healthy your womb is.
Oh yes.
So you need to have healthy intimate relationships and encounters,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Yes. And that doesn't mean you have to necessarily have it with the opposite sex or the
What?
same sex. You can have it with yourself.
Just having it with yourself?
Yes. Mindful. Can I say that?
Yes.
Mindful masturbation.
Yeah, you can say
Yes.
whatever. If it's healthy, we
Yes.
want to know
Oh,
about it.
yes. Yeah. So we're taught. I mean, I grew up religious, and in my religion, I was taught that, sex was shameful, masturbation was shameful. And anytime I would do either, I would feel this shame or like I've sinned against God and I was going to hell for eternal damnation. Like that's literally what I felt. And
Wow.
then later, as I moved through life, I was like, no, that's not true. That's not in alignment with who I am or what I believe. So, yeah, learning to embrace that.
So and it is, because I think I love that, even, that is a piece of knowing yourself and connecting with
Mm-hmm.
yourself, right? That was what you first said, for good health is connect your heart to your womb.
Oh, yeah.
And also to know yourself in that
Mhm.
way, I think is very important too.
Yeah.
And we don't teach our daughters that.
Yeah.
We don't teach our daughters, or we're not taught that it's important about our cycles and what our
Mhm.
cycles mean and what's going on in the phases. It's like, okay, just shove a tampon in there, or
Yeah.
a pad in your pants to keep from leakage, and
Mhm.
pray that you're not embarrassed in school if you
Yeah.
don't change regularly or something like that. It's
Yeah.
not something that we can, talk about.
Yeah, we don't.
So I think that's very interesting, like to even think as a very mature adult, you may not know the energetic properties or what keeps you healthy
Mhm.
with intimacy. It's
Yeah.
very interesting. So what about if you have a partner? Is it healthy or unhealthy? Okay, is it unhealthy to have multiple partners for a woman?
Oh, can we get back to that question? Because I'm like, you raised something in my mind. There was a study done that proved that there was a high incidence of nuns and priests, Catholic nuns and priests, because they practiced celibacy. They had the nuns had higher hysterectomies. They had ovarian cancer, and then the priest had prostate cancer.
Wow.
Yeah. I just wanted to put that one out there because
they're not using it.
Yeah, it's not moving. All the energy is being stagnant. It's just laying stagnant. And then as women, if most of our energy is inside of our ovaries and inside of our womb, and we're not cultivating it, again, the energy is just sitting still, and if we're not moving it throughout our body, then we're going to see disease manifest.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's very interesting. I know about that study. I'm going to look it up.
okay.
But I do know, like we do talk about in Eastern medicine, actually women, the number of sexual encounters doesn't matter so much in terms of taxation of like wear and tear on your body. Birthing does. Like the more babies you have, you put your body through more stress. But the number of times that you have sex, it doesn't so much.
Okay.
But for a man, it's the opposite. It's the number of times that he has ejaculation.
Yep.
So in the older that he gets, each time he has an ejaculation, he actually brings down his energy, and he has to wait till it's replenished. Because if he doesn't wait for replenishment, he actually gets himself in a point of deficiency and wear and tear on his body and poor health.
Oh yes.
So that's
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
So how about this multiple partner thing?
I wanted you to get back to that.
I want to know
waiting.
about it because the reason why I want to ask about it, because we're living in a different society now, especially with millennials and people. I mean, who are millennials? It's just a thing that there is a lot of casual sex. So I'm just wondering if, in your opinion, if having sex with multiple partners is more like unhealthy than it is with one partner.
Okay.
I mean, not in terms, well, STIs, risk of STIs, of course. Yeah. More partners, you have a greater chance of having an infection, catching something, transmitted infection. But in terms of energy.
Yeah. So I say everyone can do what they want to do. But I practice more of a Tao perspective, and the particular Tao spiritual system that I practice believes more in monogamy.
Okay.
As opposed to polyamory, like as opposed to tantric. But there are things that we can use to help relieve some of those connections. So every time that we have sex with a partner, we are attached to them energetically at the heart and then at the womb. So it's like an energetic cord that we're attached to them. So I know a lot of people that have a Christian background, they've heard of soul ties.
Yeah.
I call them womb ties. So we can create these womb ties to our partner. We create these, and then when our partner leaves our life for whatever reason, we're still holding on because we're still connected to, let's say, Mike or Sam or whatever. I'll say Sam, we're still connected to Sam. And then we go over here and we meet James, but we're bringing those. Have you ever heard of bringing those same problems from your last relationship
and
into
you
the
attract,
next?
and then because you're attracting.
Yeah, you're attracting the same person. That's why you're attracting the same person every time, just with a different phase. Because you're still carrying that energy from that person that you're still connected to. So a lot of what I teach my clients are womb ties. So how to release those womb ties. And again, that goes back to meditating, doing womb breathing, doing yoga poses, and also one of my favorite topics, yoni eggs. So
yoni eggs. I thought you were gonna say sage it.
Yes, you can sage it too. Yes,
can you really?
Oh yes, like frankincense. I think I learned that with Queen Afua. It was one chapter in her book. It was like light frankincense, and then have your big skirt on and just squat over it. Oh yes,
and release those energies. Yes. Okay, I love it. You are filled with gems, girl. You are filled with gems. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think this is very interesting. We could actually have a whole topic, a whole discussion about yoni eggs, and we didn't even get a chance to touch on that.
I know.
But I think that what we did touch on is very important, and I really appreciate it because I think that it's very just good to understand womb energy and understand that if you don't have the flow that you need energetically, emotional release out of your uterus because of past traumas, as well as the biological pieces that interplay into your total being and energy in your womb, preventing you from having harmony and keeping you open to having disease. So understanding that, as well as the mental connection, spiritual connection, I think is just like a wonderful starting place to just dig into reading and learning and start taking care of your body. Even if it's just with teas and meditation, it's something, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much. So much for coming. So if somebody wanted to find you and say, okay, hey, I need some help with my womb, with my uterus, my fallopian tubes, my ovaries, how would they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so they can reach me on my website. It's www.thewomenswellnessclinic.com. You can also follow me on all social media platforms at Rasha, the Holistic Nurse.
Washa, the holistic nurse.
Yes.
Find her. I'm going to have to find you too. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Take note of that. Take care of your energies for yourself as well as the people around you. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful Saturday. Keep it moving.